if you look at entrepreneurs, eventually the successful ones end up stuck and again, not stuck, but in the company that they thought they're going to launch and sell in, 3 to 5 years for over a decade.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
So out of your five, there is few that I love, yeah. And let's start with my favorite, one of my favorite, what you touch point, which is culture, right? From out of the 500 multimillionaires that we interviewed in this podcast, all of them are startup founders. When I asked them, if you had to start all over again, what do you do different? And most of them they're telling me Harry, culture. If I knew that it's gonna take me 10 times, 100 times longer, and it's gonna be harder, I will pay more attention to these five people that start to work with me, to that culture, because if I nail this bit at the beginning, they believe that they can achieve to the end result way faster. And now you're 100% right. You are putting this culture thing in one of your 5 steps. So how important is culture in actually start and grow your business and achieve your first million? This is something like, oh, this is just a word. We don't care about this. We just hire whatever we can. We don't have time. Or is it really can be something that will have an effect in the way that you grow your business?
Oh, for sure. Culture is a very big word. And in a way, it means different things to different people. And I found that when speaking about culture to especially serial entrepreneurs and those, someone raised $40 million on their A round, which means the second round after seed, the running up round, or they, and they're like, I raised my money, I'm okay, I have my clients, I'm working towards product market fit. But culture, if you break it down into something that is more tangible for people that are less, I don't want to say spiritual, but the world culture gives them a little bit feeling of, I don't know, the Albert and Victoria Museum. And then what I would say is that, okay, what are your vibes? For example. And yes, it's extremely important because, again, if I talk about culture and I break it down, then again, what I found fits most and helps me with identifying a culture is the core values. Because the core values, again, there are 3 to 6 words, memes, or phrases that represent what you believe in and how you operate. Culture, if you talk about, the British culture, the American culture, the French culture, Italian or Israeli cultures, or Russian or Chinese, you, in essence, can talk about that whole nation and describe its common denominators in just a few words. And it talks about the courtesy, it talks about, the personal engagements, it talks about the warmth, how much, like, I'm a hugger, but when I go to the States, and even if I work with someone remotely for half a year's time, if I come and hug them, right? So that is the culture. So in addition to saying culture is extremely important, I would always aim to break it down into the atoms of your culture. How do you operate? What do you believe in? And that turns, the values into something that's more than just trustfulness, loyalty, or collaboration or customer first, but rather a feeling of what would it look like to step in the office.
And do you think that culture is always a work in progress, or I just define my culture, I got my core values, I believe whatever, I got my strong belief, everybody in the organization believed it, and this is something that I designed at the beginning and I've never touched it again? Or culture is actually something that is in its content work, content improvement, content reinforce this I call it an empowerment context. This empowerment context, because when that culture is there, people come to where. Yeah, and especially what's your view on leadership on that? People will go, especially for your startups, they're not gonna go for the money. It's the most risky thing in the world. They're gonna work from their sweat and leave sweat and tears there because they believe in that vision, in that idea. So tell us your view in this, how leadership plays a role, because an entrepreneur, you start a business, you have a product, you want to sell it, make a little bit of money. That doesn't make you a leader. Leadership is a skill that the more you practice, the better you become. There is no such a thing, in my opinion, that you born leader. No, leadership is like driving. More you practice, the better you become. And the entrepreneurs, they just have a product, they want to sell it, make a little bit of money, have nothing to do with leadership. Now you have this work culture, and now entrepreneurs and the whole management team, they have to start to become leaders. So tell us a little bit more about this. How tech founders, how entrepreneurs is, progress in the way of leadership to reinforce the culture of the business, because when the company grows, now you're dealing with more people, it's more difficult.
So it's an interesting question, and it's very valid to ask, because what you're saying is there an evolution in a way in a company, or is it, the way you kick it off, that's what's going to happen. And I would divide that into like layers as if it were a cake. Because at essence, there are some things that will never change. It's like you try to, I don't know, I still try to convince my dad to think in a specific way. He's turning
It's not gonna happen.
77 this year. And I'm like, good luck with that, right? But in essence, there are a few things I will know that I know about him, and that is that if I need him to pick up the girls for me, it's always going to be on time, versus his daughter and me with, severe
Yeah.
ADHD, that I'm always either 10 minutes early or 10 minutes late. So I know I can count on him, and that would never change. And by the way, when he launched his first startup and his second and his third, it was always like that. People always knew how
Wow.
accountable it was. Now, on the other hand, if you look at entrepreneurs, eventually the successful ones end up stuck and again, not stuck, but in the company that they thought they're going to launch and sell in, 3 to 5 years for over a decade. Now, as a person, just imagine that. As a person, do you evolve over a decade? Hopefully so.
Yeah.
And I look at a company as if it were a person, as if it's an organism. So when you're 2, 3, 5, 50 people and up, it changes. Also, if you look at the social working world, then, the company changes in the way it operates in-house between 50 to 75 employees, and then 150 to 200 mark, and then the 300 mark and up. So as you evolve, you have to create apply systematic processes that will help you lead your ship, because otherwise the CEO ends up in some kind of lockdown due to either physical or mental
Yeah.
illness because of all the stress. So having said that, if an organization is like a person, and things change because just of the magnitude of the operation, then yes, the culture will change. But some things will always remain the same. And for example, there's a company called SimilarWeb. The founder, or Ofer, the son of two craftsmen, launched a company that today is one of the largest web or online or digital research companies in the world. Okay, every business should know either SEMrush or SimilarWeb. He founded that company when he was 21 or 22 years old, because he was looking for a solution to help his parents map the online world in order to best understand how to put up shop, not just in another area in a different neighborhood, but rather online. Now, this guy, you can understand already from this story that he is so devoted to his core family that when other people in Israel, the culture is you go to the army, then you go on this very long trip to the Far East or South America or Africa in order to breathe, and then you come back and start your grown-up life at the age of 21, 22, 23. He didn't go on that trip.
Wow.
He launched a company. He worked with his parents, and later on, he launched SimilarWeb. Now, at first, people would say that the regime at SimilarWeb was always very, very, very strict. And he always wanted people to put in, invest in their time and essence in the company as if it were theirs, just like he is. And that is what he always expected people to do, be all in. Over time, a few years ago, but I just met their chief people's officer, Sigal, an amazing person who told me, now one of our core values, our culture, talks about curiosity and the 110%.
Wow.
The reason it's so interesting, and to me it was very moving, because I wrote about oil and SimilarWeb in my book, and then suddenly I see that their values have changed. They softened up on the edges. It's not be the first in and the last out.
They grow,
but rather,
yeah.
What is your 110%? You did well. Now let's help you grow, because if you get out of your comfort zone, you'll grow, but also it means that you're devoted to the company. And on top of that, they didn't add that you must find a new way, but rather they created a company with a culture of curiosity. And you can see that when you walk in the corridor. So
I think this is brilliant. This is brilliant because really, again, as you grow, you see, I'm glad that you touched this point. You have to, I love this word that you soften the culture, right? Because now you're bringing a lot of people to the organization. So now we need to enroll more people in that big vision. And it's completely different when you're starting. When you're starting up, when you are 10, 15 people there, is do it or die. So again, you have to be strict. However, now again, the company have product market fit. They are selling the product and everything. I think it's a very good move but look how he did it. He softened, but at the end of the day, it's soft, but the essence is there. And I think this is the secret of culture. I'm glad that
I think that is the point. That is why I'm very, very passionate
that was my question. That was my question about the culture. I'm glad you answered so amazingly. It's like, what happened with culture as we grow? Because, it's difficult. You need to keep this core value. But now when you have more people, we have to soften it.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.